Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to IICRC's monthly webinar. Today, we're going to talk about hiring, but from a slightly different angle. Last week, we had our 3-hour boot camp with Debbie Sardone, Liz Trotter, and Sean Day, and they brought you some great strategies and insight into hiring right now. Amber's going to kind of address hiring, but from the perspective of the potential employee, understanding what they need, what they want, and what would appeal to them. Amber is going to help us to understand what matters to the modern workforce. Amber is the founder of Good Witch Cleaning Services, LLC. She leads a team of 9 millennial and Gen Z employees, an overhang of which are LGBTQIA+. As always, as we get started with the webinar, I want you to note we have the Zoom dashboard. Use the Q&A in the dashboard if you have any questions to ask of Amber. If you're very brave and you want to go live, please raise your hand and Amber we can unmute you and you can turn your camera on and your microphone on and join us live. That's up to you. You're totally fine. You raise your hand or just use the Q&A. And as always, we encourage you to use the chat to kind of just chat. Feel free to say hi to others, share your thoughts, anything. So with that, I want to turn the floor over to Amber.
Wonderful. Hi, good afternoon. We have an awesome group today. We're doing kind of a lunch and learn. So I'm going to kind of keep this a little bit casual. I want to thank you so much for sharing your lunch with me. And I kind of want to be real with you guys. I am not an industry giant and full-time consultant like you guys got to talk to last week. I don't have a PhD in business. I scrub toilets on the regular. In fact, I left a job site to come here and speak to you today. I am not yet $1 million a year company, and I don't have 50 plus employees. We have hired since I wrote that introduction for Miss Erin. We're up to 15, and 87% of them are millennials. I've been around my millennials my whole entire life, and I can give you an insider perspective on who we are and what we want. So let's get started. I'm going to give you guys a couple questions. What do you picture when I say the word millennial, and what adjectives come to mind?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So what comes to mind for me is a 21-year-old, 23. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear millennial.
Okay. What else comes to mind? Kind of what adjectives or what do you picture? What does that person look like?
Entitled.
Okay.
Unreliable.
Okay.
That has been my experiences.
Yeah.
With no thought to time.
Okay, so poor time management.
Yes, poor time management. That's the number one thing that stays on my mind. Not taking the job serious.
Mm-hmm.
I have to dance to their
rhythm and not yours.
Thank you, ma'am. I have to dance to their rhythm. Mm-hmm. And not, it's as if they are my employer. It's not the other way around. They're not working for me. I'm working for them. How can I satisfy them is how I've been made to feel.
Right. I really appreciate you sharing that. It takes a lot of guts to come on a live recording like this. It takes even more to offer that counterpoint to the presentation. So thank you so much for sharing that. We also have Miss Michelle in the chat says, someone who wants to work from home on the computer all day. And so that really does align with a lot of what I'm hearing on professional house cleaner Facebook pages and in our industry as a whole. So when you picture a millennial, I actually want you to picture me. I'm 28 years old. I've been working since I was 14, usually 2 or 3 jobs at a time. While I was in the fire service, I dedicated myself to 2 things: improving the department and trying to make the boys look bad. I dropped out of college. I did that math, and that degree in journalism really wasn't worth $40,000 in debt. And then when I moved to Kansas, no one would hire me. I either had too much experience or too little education. And, I just said, if nobody's going to hire me, I'm going to hire myself. So I started my own company. And then I noticed that other organizations were failing to meet my community's needs. So I turned around and started my own nonprofit. I want you to picture my general manager, Jessica. She was raised as a boy in a cult like sect of Christianity. She discovered at a young age that she is female. She got disowned by her family, and she spent much of her childhood, I'm talking like 7, 8 years old, homeless on the streets of Topeka, Kansas. She worked her way up and out of poverty with perennial stubbornness and determination, and she's now working to inspire transgender youth to become their best selves. I want you to picture Gabby. She's one of my facilities managers. She's a first generation immigrant and a DACA recipient who, despite being soft spoken, is bilingual and universally adored by the instructors whose building she maintains. She's also an Army wife. I want you to picture Tiffany. She's my administrative assistant. She's an Army veteran who has the most raw emotional intelligence of like any woman I've ever met. She has coffee ready for me every morning. She nudges me out of the door for my appointments on time, even though I just want to finish one more thing, one more thing. I keep saying that. She supports our entire team as if they were her family. And even when I pick up our business phone, my clients want to talk to her. That's amazing. Millennials aren't hard to understand. The hardest part is to remember that we can't be described by a single adjective or phrase, and we can't be represented by a single avatar. I can give you generalities about this generation, and I will, because we can use that data as a "you are here" starting point. But the first thing I really want you to know about millennials is that we want to be seen and valued as individuals. So who is Gen Y? That's millennials. 21 to 39 years old last year. We're going 22 to like 40s. We're in our 40s now. Oh my God, when did that happen? We are young professionals. We make up the largest generation in the workforce. We are unbelievably diverse. 25% of us are bilingual, with Spanish and Chinese being the most prominent. We openly navigate the world with a wide spectrum of gender identities and sexual orientations, and we really love exploring and expressing our individuality. We've kind of gotten sandwiched between wages that stagnated long before we were born, like literally in the 70s, and skyrocketing costs of living, housing, education, medical care. So a lot of us live in poverty. Only a very small percentage are homeowners, and 88% of us, which is huge, abandoned rural America for cheaper rent and stronger job markets in cities. While we are the most educated generation, a lot of us are disenchanted with higher education, and we're looking for meaningful careers in blue collar work. And that's something that our industry is positioned to provide. So, where are the millennials, Amber? How can we get them to come work for us? There's not really a place where millennials all hang out. It's more a state of mind. We're tired. 84% of millennials are actively experiencing burnout, representing a mental health crisis that the world has never seen before. Why? Because our needs aren't being met. In fact, between our jobs, our families, and our society as a whole, our needs are being actively threatened. I blacked out the screen because I really want you to close your eyes. You're going to have to use your heart for this exercise. I want you to imagine yourself in your 20s. Your future was bright. You could have anything that you wanted, and you likely believe that your life would be better in 5 years than it was at any given moment. Millennials don't really have that. We were in elementary and middle school when the Twin Towers fell. We grew up in a wartime country. As soon as we could get jobs as teenagers and young adults, the housing bubble popped, and we entered the workforce in a recession from which we've never really fully recovered. Many of us live paycheck to paycheck, and it's not because of avocado toast. Inflation is rising faster than wages. We pay other people's mortgages as rent, but we can't afford to buy our own homes because the starter ones that should be in our price range keep getting snapped up by investors looking for, you guess it, more rentals. Our parents told us to go to college, and we accepted the yoke of student loan payments that are designed in such a way that they really can't be paid back in one lifetime. As if the overseas complex didn't impact our families and economy enough, domestic policies are kind of eroding our faith in the system at large right now. And we're 2 years into an international pandemic. I'm not trying to be political here, but I really need you to understand why. When literally last week, I did an informal poll. I asked 2,968 millennials, do you believe your life will be better in 5 years than it is now? And 37% of them said no. And that points to what we really need. One word, 4 letters, the most beautiful thing that you can cultivate and the hardest thing to grow. It's hope. As business leaders, our job over the next decade will not just be to build the right products, processes, and services. Our job is going to be to inspire hope in the people that we lead. So how do you build hope? You start by meeting needs. So I want to talk about what those needs are and what those threats are. You can raise your hand if you want to. You can put it in the chat. Who's familiar with that SWOT analysis? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. The fun thing about a SWOT analysis that not a lot of consultants actually talk about is that you can take weaknesses and turn them into strengths. You can also take threats and turn them into opportunities, because if you address that threat effectively, then it's no longer a threat, it's an opportunity. So kind of going through threats to our physiological needs include some of us are facing eviction, non-renewal of leases, food insecurity, and insomnia due to stress. Threats to safety include LGBTQIA plus violence, racially motivated violence, concerns about our job security, and then lack of access to health and mental health resources. Esteem threats include low status jobs, not feeling recognized for their efforts, lack of purpose in their careers. Self-actualization threats include those lack of opportunities for growth and education. And so as employers, we consider really strongly what social media platform we can use to reel these people in. We choose what fonts and colors appeal to them. And we spend a lot of money and time on learning how to get them to buy in, right? But what we really need to consider is once you have them there, how can you invest in them? And then consider that when you were that age, people were investing in you. So how can you turn around and help that next person up the ladder? So we have some ways that we're addressing those needs, like esteem. We don't say that we're, cleaners. We're residential cleaning technicians. We build this as a career. We look at trying to find ways to consistently recognize good performance. And it doesn't always have to be a raise. Sometimes it's just a kind word or a gift card to their favorite coffee shop. We do childcare assistance. So last year we were not closed for Thanksgiving, but you know who was? The school district. One of my team leads, she had coverage for her 5-year-old until her husband got a new job. And then he couldn't keep the kids over Thanksgiving break all of a sudden. And so she was like, I don't know what to do. I guess I need to call out for the whole week because I have to be able to keep him. And I could have gotten mad about that. She's been with my company longer than her husband has been with his company. Isn't her job here more important than like his new job? And the answer is to them, it's not. They need both incomes. I could help pay for drop-in care, but that is extremely expensive and I can't afford it. So what we did was I had an assistant that week. His name is Nolan. He's this many. He loves dinosaurs. And having him at the office was absolutely wonderful. So if you can't spend the money, find ways of spending time. We do some pretty specific client screening when it comes to safety. And we use that initial walkthrough. So we don't do our pricing online. We do go and do a walkthrough. And I'm not just looking at the condition of the home and what their pricing should be. I'm also trying to figure out who is this person that we want to work with? Are they a person that we want to work with? So that's kind of a screening process too. If there's a single red flag that client may be rude, condescending, or discriminatory, I immediately switch over to a diversity interview. And I'll say, hey, just to let you know, ma'am, our stated mission is to prove that you don't have to be an evil corporation to be a successful company. Our staff are Afghani immigrants, DACA recipients, transgender, gay, and minorities. Is that going to be a problem for you? and you can be just that direct about it. Going to bat for your employees. The customer isn't always right. We know that. I'm sure that everyone in the residential industry has dealt with a customer who has expectations that just don't align with reality. And so sometimes the customer is mean. We had a realtor that we were working with who was consistently and deliberately misgendering Jess on a job site. She texted me from the passenger seat of the work van in tears. I called him up. I told him that he was banished from the job site for the rest of the day. If I saw him before midnight, I would pull the team and charge full price, and that he owed her an apology. And in the file cabinet to my right, in her file is a handwritten letter of apology from that realtor, because we went to bat for her, and he genuinely felt bad about what he did. The last one that I really want to highlight is acceptance. We recognize that like wild hairstyles, tattoos, piercings, they really don't have a bearing on a person's work ethic, and it reflect their individuality, not their character. So we have really gorgeous uniforms, and we have a uniform policy, but we don't police people's bodies or the way that they express themselves with those bodies. We also use pronouns in our email signatures and on our name tags. So those are some ways that you can start to build safety and belonging into your organization, to where you're not just building a company, you're building a tribe. And that's kind of what millennials are looking for. So how can you address needs for people in your company? You kind of have to start by connecting with them as individuals, and start with the staff that you have now. If you don't ask first, you're going to spend tons of money chasing your tail and trying to address what you think they need instead of what they actually need. So step one is ask, and I'm going to tell you how. One of the ways that you can look at the employee review is not just as a way for you to review the employee. It's a way that you can get information for how the employee feels about you. You'll be really surprised what people say when you ask them some of these questions. So those employee reviews used to be a one-way street. Let them review you too. We use an anonymous form on like SurveyMonkey, and we'll just build it out, just a few questions. And these are the things that we ask in that survey. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well does the company meet your needs? If you could change one thing about the way the company interacted with you, what would it be? What needs do you see not being met? What would be your ideal resolution? And then which employee benefits are your favorite and why? And so those 4 questions give me a lot of information about what our employees are looking for, what they value that we're already doing, and what tweaks we can make to make it a better workplace. It also helps my employees feel like their opinion matters to me and that they can create change in an organization. The staff meeting. This is a fantastic time to be able to connect with and engage with your employees. So that used to be a one-way street. That's why I have a waterfall. It was like this waterfall of information where information flowed from the top down the org chart. And that's kind of a waste of time when everybody thinks about, meetings that could have been an email. That's what you're looking at. It's a monologue. I'm maybe taking notes. I'm probably zoning out. So staff meetings should be rivers, not waterfalls. And that creates a way where energy and information can go both ways. Spending an extra 10 minutes to ask how your employees are doing, literally go around the room. The first time, everybody's going to be like, oh, we're doing fine. Thanks for asking. That's because they don't trust you with their problems yet. Give it time and be honest when you say your piece. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability. Think of it like a middle school dance. Somebody has to get on the floor and embarrass themselves before everybody else gets on the dance floor too. So you can open that conversation with these simple questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel today? If your life was a weather forecast, what would today's weather report be? And then what song best describes your week? You can go online and you can find a whole bunch of these conversation starters. Some of them are ridiculously fun. So during a warning, this is a really hard time to create vulnerability and hold a safe space for your employees. But you can be firm without being a jerk. And you can talk to them, be human with them. Here's a story from a long time ago. Our business hours used to be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. I hired an employee in June and she was amazing. She was on time. She was in uniform. She was kind. She was extremely detail oriented, and she was a single mom of 2. A few months later, she started being consistently late, 3 days in a row, exactly 30 minutes late on the dot. And I was mad, y'all. I was so ready to fire her. But I sat down and I asked her, hey, Liz, according to our employee manual, I should fire you. But I'm the one who wrote the manual. So I think it's fair to toss that out for now. Can you just tell me what's going on with you? Are you okay? Man, I learned so much from asking those questions. She told me that the drop-off lines at school were an absolute nightmare. She had one in elementary and one in middle school, which means she had to sit through 2 lines every single morning. She told me, hey, I'm getting there as fast as I can. I couldn't believe myself, y'all. I was just about to fire a mother for bringing her kids to school. And then I started thinking, our clients are mothers too. If that time, 8 a.m., doesn't work for Liz, it probably doesn't work for them either. And although Liz is no longer with the company, considering her needs changed the company forever. Our business hours are now 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I not only have happy residential clients, I also have an edge recruiting moms. Next, we have some, oh no, I really want to talk about like what my takeaway from that was. That really taught me to stop just judging people's value based on their actions, and start actually investigating the situation. So instead of just being like, okay, well, this employee didn't meet my expectations, therefore they are lazy and I don't want to work with them. Trying to piece together that puzzle of who they are and what environment they're working in really, really helped me to understand that instead of saying this person is lazy, I need to ask myself what external factor is preventing them from being their best self. You have to remember that you're working with whole humans. They have a vast range of emotions, networks of relationships full of expectations and needs, and they're navigating a world that's complex, beautiful, and sometimes really scary. And a little understanding really goes a long way. So now we do want to talk about low cost. Many mental health providers are offering a cash pay rate. So we pay part of what that cash rate is. So we pay part and then the employee pays part. We're billed at the end of every month for just what we used. So however many appointments there were total. And this approach is really scalable, but you do need to go knock on a few doors and talk to their owners to see what you can work out. We talked to multiple mental health providers. Some of them wanted to do a trade out for cleaning. Some of them were willing to do that partial payment plan. So you really just need to go and talk to those owners and see what they're willing to do to work with you. We also do a biweekly group therapy. I swear to you, that is the best $80 a month I have ever spent. I don't have to be everybody's mom anymore. And they're gaining transferable skills and emotional intelligence that's going to be helpful for them for the rest of their lives. Direct primary care providers are also a great option. They're springing up all over the United States. They are made up of doctors that are disenchanted with the current healthcare system. So like I can explain kind of how it works. This is broadly, every office is a bit different. So it's kind of like a gym membership. The employer pays a fixed rate per month per employee. The employee can visit an actual doctor as many times as they need or want to each month for that. They'll pay out of pocket for prescriptions, lab works, and specialists. But these services cost pennies on the dollar with what you're used to when you're talking about insurance. So for example, I pay $50 a month per employee. And then a prescription that I used to spend $100 a month on at Walmart is now $275 for a 3-month supply through them. So their cash rate is very, very favorable for the employee and the employer. You can Google direct primary care near me to start exploring those options. You can add your employees to your schedule, a once a month clean, or even a standby cleaning where you just have them. If you don't have a list of people who are waiting to get on when you get a cancellation, put one of your employees' houses on. You may not be able to get to the whole thing, but cleaning a kitchen and the primary bed and bathroom for them would be like a really huge help. Um, it can also create a lot of loyalty in your staff, and it also helps them really understand the customer's perspective. How does the customer feel when they walk into the home right after the house has been cleaned? And unless they've experienced it, they're never going to actually know. So for larger companies, an in-house daycare provider can be a huge selling point. But if you don't have multinational corporation money, which none of us do, you're in good company. Consider offering childcare spending accounts or maybe bonuses to subsidize the costs associated with being a working parent. I noticed that with gas prices going up right now, a lot of companies have been offering a gas card or just a bonus on a paycheck, just to be like, hey, I know that you're working hard. I know that things are tough right now. I want to support you. And so even just like a $25 gas card goes a long way because it's not just the money, it's that you considered their needs and you were willing to meet them where they were. What if you're not even there? What if you're just starting out? I'm going to go through some tips that cost $0, which is everybody's favorite price. Changing your mindset. This one's hard. Some owners think they're doing their employees a favor by giving them a job. But without your team, you would be a solo cleaner again. Scalability, efficiency, and profitability are potentials that are unlocked by your team, not you. I'm going to repeat that. Scalability, efficiency, profitability get unlocked by your team, not you. BizMiner data shows that micro success is not possible in residential cleaning. So a company needs to reach $500,000 in annual sales before an owner can be paid well who is not managing the business. So if you want that sweet, sweet mailbox money, you need to hit $500,000 in sales. If you want to be on a beach while your business is running itself, you need $500,000 in sales. So your staff is the basis of your success. They're doing you a favor by building your dream. Don't ever forget that. I was at a roundtable discussion a while back, and my table mates said that they were struggling with millennials. They said a lot of the same things that Miss Ortiz said. They don't want to work. They'll leave you for anything. They aren't team players. Y'all, I wanted to get up and go to another table right then and there. I wanted to just like hide my face and be like, ugh, I know I look older than this, but like I'm actually a millennial and that hurts my feelings. If you believe that millennials are lazy or unappreciative or disloyal, you don't even have to say it out loud. We can tell, and we do not stay where we do not feel wanted. So creating safety. Creating safety through communication is a really vital skill when it comes to leading and motivating humans. And we kind of talked about that before. Fight or flight is not a state of mind in which we can build relationships, trust, or loyalty. Whether it's delivering that negative feedback, announcing a new policy, hiring someone, or any other form of communication that you have between yourself and your staff, you need to consider whether or not your words reassure your team member of their place on the team. So giving negative feedback. It's really easy to just be like, hey, you messed up this job site and I fielded a customer complaint. You need to go fix it. That finger pointing you is not a positive way to give negative feedback. There are positive ways to give negative feedback. You can consider, hey, a customer complained about this job site that you managed yesterday. I know you're under a lot of pressure and I'm not upset with you, but we do need to make the client feel valid and valued. What time today can you go back and address her concerns? Okay. We all had this. We have a staff meeting. I have it all organized. I did all the prep work. We have a PowerPoint. We look like we have ourselves together today, and somebody shows up late. It's really easy to say, oh, well, look who finally decided to show up to the staff meeting. We do these to our teenagers too. What that does is it makes them feel like, hey, instead of coming to the staff meeting, I really should have just not showed up at all. So you can say things like, hey, I'm glad that you made it. Here's where we're at. Or you can just decide to let them catch up themselves. You don't even have to address the fact that they're late in front of the group. You can address it with them later. An employee calls in late. They say that their tire blew. Oftentimes, the first thing we say is, oh, okay, well, when can you get in? That's not what they want to hear. They want to say, hey, are you all right? Okay. If you go, hey, are you all right? Then you can get to the, planning how that's going to affect their day and their teammates' day. The first thing that you want to do is remember that they're an actual human being and ask how they are. Recleans, an employee is off their game. So sometimes you'll have a really great employee and they'll be going along great for a while, and then they'll have a couple client complaints, just like right in a row. You're like, man, this employee is really off their game. It's really easy to just be like, hey, you have 3 client complaints. That's against our policy. You're fired. It's really not that hard to sit them down and be like, hey, this isn't like you. You normally do a great job. What's going on and how can I support you? An employee comes in with a bad attitude. It's the same thing. This isn't like you. What's going on and how can I support you? Medical issues are making an employee unreliable. There are ways that you can meet their needs without, completely ruining yourself. We had an employee who got pregnant, and it was her first pregnancy, and it was just like really messing her up. Full-time was just not working for her anymore, and she was nauseous all the time, and she was miserable. And so what we did was we said, hey, we have an opening for a part-time employee that isn't working every day, just like as a floater to help with the deep cleans or to help with Airbnbs. And so we were able to make a very reasonable accommodation and just reduce her to that part-time schedule. We sat down with her and made sure that, hey, how much money do you need to make per month to be able to meet your bills? How many hours does that translate to? And how can we get you to those number of hours in a way that works for both of us? So really taking a collaborative approach is where it's at. Communication in. So communication in needs to be encouraged. Open your door, create an anonymous complaint email. We have an anonymous complaint email. Everybody has access to it. It's like goodwitchcomplaints@gmail.com. They all have it has the same password. Everybody has access to it. If they use that email address to email me, then I don't know who signed in. And so anonymity is something that helps you to get a lot more accurate feedback. Allow staff to bring their concerns to you and listen. Ask open-ended questions and do not, I repeat, do not default to offering solutions. Keep open-ended questions, let them talk through it. When you're implementing a new policy or a change, one of the things that I started with was going down my employee list. I had everybody written out, and I had to ask myself for everyone, how will this affect this person? How will this affect this person on down the list? After 6 months, you don't even have to write it down. It's going to become like breathing to you. Remember that burnout rate for millennials? It was the exact same rate as people who weren't passionate about their jobs. Do you think that's a coincidence? No, it is not a coincidence. Lack of passion, loyalty, and motivation in young employees are not actually a reflection of them. It's a red flag that the leadership team is not activating those employees. And it's an indicator that unless their company culture changes, they're going to struggle to survive the next decade. Older generations are going out of the workforce. We're already the largest workforce or the largest generation in the workforce now. That's not going to change anytime soon. So if you want to survive the next decade, you're going to have to change your management techniques. Creating purpose and passion, though, it's a lot easier than you think. Most managers just don't take the time to do it. I kind of joke when people ask me what I do for a living. I'm like, I scrub toilets. But everybody in this room knows that we do a lot more than just scrubbing toilets. When you're communicating the impact that you have on your clients' lives, you create purpose. So at every staff meeting, we bring those stories of impact. So you have to consider who is your end user and what are the ways that you impact them. We talk about, hey, this employee or this client is an administrator at the school district and she doesn't have a lot of time. And she keeps telling us that, like, hey, the day that we come in and clean her house every week is her favorite day of the week. And the reason why is because she gets to come in and that's the only time that she like breathes deep. We talk about, hey, this client has like 6 kids and she works full time and her husband works full time and the kids are in all of the extracurriculars, and offering her that support. We're not just scrubbing a toilet, we're creating real change in that client's life. And so when you are not communicating that, it's really easy for your employees to only see the things that they clean and not the people whose lives that they change. So keeping that front and center creates purpose, and it's incredibly valuable. I kind of want to go through some books. Find Your Why is why this whole conversation is called Generation whY. As kids, we ask that question 12,000 times a day. If you have kids, they're still asking that question 12,000 times a day. But why? But why? But why? We want to know why. Why should I work for you? Why should I stay here? What are we doing in our communities that lights a fire in my heart? Why would I be inspired to go above and beyond for you? And so reading this book is super important. You can't really give others directions to a place that you've never been. So if you don't have more purpose in your work than just scrubbing toilets and making money, you can use this as a practical guide to find what matters to you and your team. So to give purpose, you have to have purpose. And this is a great starting point. Emotional Intelligence 2.0. This is also, it's really modular. You don't have to read the whole thing at once. I recommend that you not read the whole thing at once because it's super dense. There are 4 parts to emotional intelligence: self-awareness and self-management, and then others awareness and others management. Dedicate months to this book, develop each skill, go through and determine, of those 4, which are my 2 strongest, which are my 2 weakest, and then sort of dedicate time to all of the above. The coaching habit. This one is super fun. Raise your hand or hit the chat box if you always want to just give people the answers. I always want to give people the answers. Like, you come to me with a problem and I just want to tell you how to solve it because I'm helpful, but that's not actually helpful. Unfortunately, millennials hate that. This book will teach you how to help them find the answers instead of giving them the answers, which meets their needs for self-actualization. And it takes pressure off of you to be everybody's mother. You can help them think through how to find that answer. And once they do that, once they know that path, then it's a lot easier for them to reproduce that, to where instead of you having to solve all of their problems for them, they learn how to solve them themselves. This is Seth Godin. He is the father of modern marketing. He is absolutely incredible. Listen to everything he says, write it down twice, color code it. I don't care. It's great. Love and belonging are needs that are met by businesses who are radically changing the way that teams are built and managed. So if you can meet love and belonging needs, then you can create a much more resilient culture. Seth Godin is a thought leader on creating organizations to which people are loyal because they feel like they belong. We don't want a clock in, clock out job. We want to belong to something. We're leaving rural America. 88% of us live in cities. A lot of us didn't start out in cities. Our family's not close by. Our friends aren't close by. Our church, our community, the things that we grew up with. So we can be a bit isolated. If you can create a workplace where we feel like we belong, we're going to stay there. This is another really, really good one that also helps to create that love and belonging needs being met. Loyalty with millennials is to the tribe in which they belong and also to the leader that looks out for them. So I trust a leader when I feel like they're protecting my interests harder than they're pursuing their own. When I was in the fire service, my assistant chief was absolutely excellent. I knew in my heart all the time that he wanted the best for me. And I would literally follow him into a burning building. I literally have. And so that loyalty comes from the way that he led. And the way that he led was very similar to Leaders Eat Last. So in Leaders Eat Last, Sinek discusses how to be a leader worth following. So why is this important? Why are you going to read all these books? Why are you going to do all this work? Why is this important? Because millennials are not unique. These are human needs. All of your other employees want this too. And if you think that Gen Y is hard, wait until you meet our younger, edgier, louder, more opinionated counterparts, Gen Z. Younger siblings, younger cousins, Gen Z is going to be even harder. So if you miss the mark on treating people like people, I have really bad news for you. You're going to lose your people. 70% of workers would quit right now for the right employer. So that includes your staff. Look around the room, 70% of them are likely willing to walk away from you right now. So I'm going to leave you guys with a hospitality quote that's really stuck with me for quite some time, because this is a pretty depressing slide to leave it on. This is fantastic. So J.W. Marriott says, if you take care of your people will take care of your customers, and your business will take care of itself.
Thank you, Amber. That was really informational. I mean, a lot of good information, and I think everybody will take a lot away from this webinar. But I do want to, as Amber mentioned, we are open for Q&A right now. So if anybody has questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box that's in your Zoom dashboard. And yes, I know I did see where a few people had joined late. So we definitely are recording today's webinar, and we will make this available in our IICRC learning in our webinar library. And I'm trying to grab a link real quick so I can provide that for everybody. Okay.
Miss Kathy messaged us. She said, great ideas about creating culture, but how do you translate this into recruiting efforts? That is an amazing question. We are very transparent about our mission. Our mission is all over our website. It's all over everywhere else. We talk about it every opportunity we get the chance. Our stated mission is to prove that you don't have to be an evil corporation to be a successful company. There's literally nothing in there about scrubbing toilets. You can read our job description. And so our job description isn't just like, must be able to carry this much weight and bend and stoop and operate a mop and a vacuum. The first part is just talking about like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. Here's our mission. Here's how we accomplish it. You're what we're passionate about as a job seeker. Our employees are what we're passionate about. Here's what we do to support you right now. We're an LGBTQIA friendly employer. We want to, we do 2 or 3 houses a day. And we offer you all of the best equipment and supplies and training. My job as a leader is to equip you, train you, and then get the heck out of your way. So just making that like front and center on our hiring. We do a lot of posts like on the job. So last night we actually had 2 of our employees call out because they weren't feeling great. Called out at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a 5:30 to like 11 o'clock, a couple of our late commercial job sites. And so we actually reached out to one of the subcontractors that works with us, and we reached out to our team and we were like, hey, who wants to come help with this? I have this big presentation tomorrow and I want to get to bed on time. Please help. And they came out in force. We had a subcontractor and her helper. We had one of our team leads, my general manager, and then myself all showed up. And so we got a picture of everybody and we put it up online, and it's doing really, really well. And so what that shows to a job seeker who's like researching us and looking at us, if you creep people on LinkedIn or Facebook that you're thinking of hiring, imagine that they are probably also doing that to you. So they're looking through our Facebook page and they see, hey, we don't leave somebody hanging. We didn't leave, usually there are 3 people. The one that was left, Shazia, we're not going to leave her alone on 2 big job sites, 30,000 square feet of commercial by herself. No, we're going to come together and we're going to work together. The leadership team is going to be there supporting you. And so they see how we operate on a day-to-day basis. They see it on our website and our blog. They see it in our job description. And so we do everything we can to make it very clear who we are and what we do and why we do it.
Okay. We did get another question come in, and it says, how do you balance giving gas cards, insurance, etc., and the income you currently have?
Yeah. Step 1, raise your prices. If you're turning away business right now, then I'm going to tell you, nationwide, we are for the first time in a seller's market when it comes to cleaning. There are more people who need cleaning services right now than people who are able to offer them. So because the supply is less than the demand, that means that you can raise your prices and you can be a lot pickier about your clients. So I understand that if you're not charging enough, you're not paying yourself enough, you're not paying your staff enough, you're not able to get the best equipment and supplies, like that's not a great position to be in. And so making sure that you are keeping your prices in line with that is really important. And then if you are self-funding your business, if you don't have any loans or anything, like we didn't, I started with $100 worth of cleaning supplies from Dollar General. I started with a vacuum for my house. And so I did this from the ground up without any loans. So if you're doing it like that, there are going to be lean times for you as you invest in your team and in your business.
Okay, any other questions, please drop them in the, you could put them in chat if you want to, or like I said, in the Q&A box. Carrie said thank you, and then somebody else did say wow
I
over
hope
the
that's a good
presentation.
wow and not like
It was a good wow.
like whoa. Wow.
No, it was wow. That's all I can say. And I think that was the webinar.
Awesome.
Okay. No other questions? I did drop the link in for the webinar library. The webinar will be available soon in the webinar library. I do want to offer reminders to everybody that we do a monthly webinar. On April 19th, we have Build Your $1 Million Cleaning Business Through Diversifying with RJ Patel and Gosha Barron. If you don't know them, they both own, RJ's in Atlanta and Gosha is in Chicago, and they both own residential cleaning companies. And when the pandemic started, they merged together and opened up a commercial cleaning business that has been wildly successful. So I encourage you to join us for our webinar on April 19th. And then on May 10th, we have the second of our 2-part employee boot camp, Keeping the Best Employees. The program is a 4-hour program. It's from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and we will feature Debbie Sardone, Molly Moran, and Angela Garvino, and they're going to tell you about, you not only do you need to hire right now, but you need to keep the employees that you have. Your A players, how do you keep them? So please join us for that webinar, and I will put a link right now to our residential cleaning page for all of our events. You can register for any of them from right there. And with that, Amber, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Somebody did pop in a question. So if we'll take a minute here. What
Miss
is
Sonia,
your best resource to find employees?
So everyone's absolute best resource for finding employees is their current employees. So build a referral program and say, hey, if you refer someone and they manage to work here for 60 days or however long your probationary period is, and they've stuck out with you, offer them a bonus. It costs you a ton. Most staffing agencies calculate that it costs up to 1/3 of the annual salary of whoever you're hiring to recruit them. So that's in your advertising expenses, that's in your time, that's in the getting stood up for interviews and sitting at your desk waiting on somebody to show up who's never going to show up. That's in making those reference checks. Like, there's a lot that goes into hiring. So you can actually save a lot of money by giving them a bonus for doing that. We also use Indeed rather successfully. We use Facebook jobs fairly successfully. One of the most controversial things that we have done, and I don't understand why this is controversial. So, like, I don't know, use it if you like and don't if you don't. In our job description at the very top in bold and capitalized, it says, hey, please read the entire job description. It's how we know you're not a robot and that you actually want to work with us. And then at the very end of the job description, again, bold, own paragraph, extremely obvious. It says, congratulations, you've read the entire job description. The password in the questions is, and then every month we change it. So in February, it was Valentine. Sometime last summer, we did pineapple, right? And so what that tells me when I'm looking through the screener questions and they got that password, that tells me that they have attention to detail. They actually were committed to the process enough to read the entire job description. And then they told me the truth that they read the entire job description. If they choose, have you read the entire job description, and they choose yes, then what that tells me is A, they don't have that attention to detail. They're willing to skip things and they're willing to lie to me about it. Is that an employee that I want? We used to make exceptions on that screener question and it did not go well. They were employees that didn't stay long, or they were producing poor quality work because of lack of attention to detail. And so we finally decided, you know what, I'm going to make that a deal breaker. Another question that we ask in those screener questions is, why do you want to work with us? If somebody says, oh, well, you pay more than everybody else and I want to make money, that's not really compelling for me. When somebody answers and they're like, hey, I agree with your mission and I want to help families to get more time with each other, or, I really love cleaning and I know how it helps my household to have it clean and I want to do that for other people. That's somebody who agrees with what we're doing, and even if they don't agree with all the decisions that I make, they want to be here because they want to be part of what we are trying to do for our community.
I think you answered Sonia's question. She said love this. So
Yay.
good. Okay, if we have no other questions, like I said, we will make the video available in our webinar library. Thank you to Amber. Like everybody has already echoed, and you did amazing. It was a wonderful program. So thank you very much. And as always, thank you to Martha, who's behind the scenes.
Excellent. So
right.
If anybody wants to talk about hiring or they're looking for help with any of these specific questions, you can reach out to me at goodwitchcleaning@gmail.com. I will make myself available. And then if you have any questions about this presentation, or if you want access to our slideshow, I'm more than happy to share those resources with you.
Actually, yeah, if you want to send the slides to me, then I can send that out to everybody and then include your email on that so that everybody can get in touch with you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody.